Welcome, everyone, to the From the Shadows podcast. I am your host, Shane Grove, and with me, as always, even though it's late, the super producer, Jason.
Greetings, everyone.
I'm just glad you didn't, try to fight back that you're late or whatever. I'm just glad that you just came in with the greetings and were very pleasant about it.
Absolutely. I'm working on a podcast for our audience.
I appreciate your professionalism. Oh man, Jason's tough coming back from vacation. As we record this, it was my first day back to work, and I think I'm already planning my next vacation. I gotta be honest with you.
Well, I believe it.
This work and stuff is not. It's just not working out anymore. I gotta say, But I'm glad to be back. I'm glad to be here tonight, recording this episode because, and I've been teasing you, Jason. I've been teasing you with this guest.
Oh yeah.
He's got, and once we get to gosh, I'm putting so much pressure on it. I am. I really am. This guest tonight, I got a hold of us through social media. Said he had a story to tell. I got to talk to him. Great guy, fantastic guy, great story. And it's like, well, let's see what you got. Let's come on and entertain our audience and tell your story. Then he tells us he's got some ghost stories too. So he totally. I don't know what else he's got up his sleeves for us tonight. So. We'll introduce and believe it or not, he goes by Happy. So Happy, welcome to the program.
Well, thanks for having me on, guys. I've long-time fan, first-time caller, and glad you're back from vacation. And Jason, thanks for joining us, man.
Thank you very much, sir. Glad to have you.
Glad you can make it. Yeah, I just got to give you a little bit of a jab there, man.
Oh yeah,
but. So I don't know what you guys want to talk about first, other than I grew up in East Georgia and Augusta, and so I'm really obviously can't hide my identity with a name like Happy being from Augusta, so I don't care anymore as to what's going on. But I grew up in a haunted house and had a couple of Sasquatch encounters, swamp ape, whatever you want to call them, growing up deer hunting in Augusta. In my younger years, and I pretty much quit deer hunting after that. And I have been deer hunting since the last episode, maybe 3 times in 25 years. So I got chased out of the woods.
Let's start with growing up in a haunted house, because to me that would be enough to set me straight. I wouldn't even go hunting.
Anything to get out of the house.
But yeah. So tell us a little bit about the house and some of the stuff that happened to you growing up.
So I grew up in a small house that was owned by a couple that we knew the family, and we bought. It was on about 3 acres outside of the city of Augusta, right across the street from a pond. And as we talked earlier, you always hear when you start remodeling, if there's a spirit attached to the house or something, that's when occurrences started happening. So I guess I was about 8, and we remodeled the kitchen and turned it into my bedroom, at which point weird things started happening to me. There was always a cold breeze blowing through the house. It was always my belongings getting disheveled around, hats getting moved, shoes getting moved, losing jackets. I had a set of HO scale army men that were my pride and joy. I had them numbered, picked them up every time I got finished playing with them. We left the house one day to go shopping. No dogs in the house, no cats. Placed the box on top of the console television. And when we came home, it was literally like the box had exploded, and these army men were everywhere. It was like somebody had just taken the box and ripped it up, and they exploded all over the house. No explanation for that whatsoever. Moving forward, I guess as it started escalating, if you could call it that. It never really came to a head. We moved, but they didn't get chased out. As one night, my mom and my sister were in a bedroom with the door shut, and my father was in the shower with the door shut, and I was in my room, and about a 4-inch piece of lead pipe comes out of nowhere and hits me in the side of the head and breaks my glasses.
I still cannot believe.
Dude,
I still cannot believe that a lead pipe just came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Where
where
was the origin? Like, where'd that lead pipe come from? I mean, God.
That's the only thing I can think of is maybe because it was the kitchen. I don't know. I mean, my dad was a plumber, still is, but we didn't keep lead pipes laying around in the house, and I can't answer that. I really do not know.
Wow.
The story you told us off the air about how now this comes to is how the lady of the house died in the kitchen.
Okay, well, they were chain smokers.
Okay.
And so the husband was, at this point, had emphysema and apparently was chair-ridden or bedridden and couldn't do a whole lot. And he was also not a very nice man. And the story is that his wife had spent all day long working under the sink. And after she got done for the night, in between the kitchen and the bathroom, she dropped dead of a heart attack. So
I think I think comes the explanation of the lead pipe of coming up. Like
from working under the sink.
Working under the sink, and she's had it with you doing whatever it is you're
Apparently
doing.
So. At 9, nobody wanted to know what I was doing, being a gross boy. So.
Hey, this is a family program. Let's go.
Indeed. Okay, so just being at 9, I was just being a gross boy, just candy wrappers all over.
I gotta be honest. The most unbelievable part of the story is that you cleaned up your soldiers after playing them. I'm just gonna.
Well, I was mad. I was mad, which blew me away. Hang on. I've got an audience. My dog wants to come in and be on the show with us as well. So sorry about that if you hear somebody barking.
It's okay. As long as it's your dog.
But yes, it is my dog. This house, we've lived here for almost 20 years, and I don't think it's haunted. So I think we're good there. We moved away from that. But as I said, as we were moving out of the house when I was 15, 16 years old, it was like it didn't want us to leave. We always had to go back and get something, and we kept the house. It turned into my father's office, and when he started renting out the office, as I was saying, the guys that he was renting the office to, nobody wanted to stay after dark. They said it just gave them a creepy feeling. Somebody was watching them. So there's that, which I haven't been in contact with anybody.
What did your parents like? Did they experience any of this stuff too, or was it just centered around
my
you?
mother? It was centered around me, but my mother believed it. My mother knew what was going on, but my mother also, for a while, dabbled in tarot cards and conjure bags and all that stuff before she realized that probably wasn't one of the better things to do. So, I mean, maybe she's the one that opened the door and told them to come on in.
Oh boy, that's I hate to say that, but that's what when you hear stories like this, there's always like, my mom was a witch, or hey, we had a Ouija board on the coffee table, or
there was no Ouija board. Yeah, there was no Ouija boards, but there was, that's always been in the back of my mind that may have opened up the door.
It could have been the portal. You're right.
Yeah, because I think if you're open,
right.
if you're open to the idea that you can read tarot cards and other stuff like that, then obviously you're communicating with something. You're communicating with something else that helps, lead the cards being played, being turned over and read. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, so
absolutely.
So you're open to something, and there's got to be something leading you down that path. So that very well could be the reason.
Yeah, and when you're open, you're putting energy out there, and that's what they're looking for. And it was not the sometimes it wasn't the happiest of houses either. So there was a good bit of negative energy around there as well.
Yeah,
that you have to look at. So I mean,
you
got to look at it that way. And there's always stuff going on. I mean, there were dreams that I had that my mom would come in and wake me up. I mean, I'll never forget too. I had friends in car wrecks. One of them got killed. I woke up and said, so-and-so got killed in a car wreck. My mom said, well, how'd you know that? So I dreamed about it. So, yeah.
Yeah, and that goes right back into the tarot card.
Yeah. Absolutely. 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 So, I think it kind of leads into a lot of things that we're going to talk about. If you got to be open, and there's a channel there, and, there was a spring on the property where we lived as well, underneath the bomb shelter. So, there's always that theory of water being a portal as well.
Yep. Exactly. I've heard that.
We've used, it was well water in the house. So when we got out of there, we moved to another house. Nothing supernatural happened there. And fast forward a few years, this is after I had all my experiences, and I had moved away. And both my grandfathers died within about 8 months of one another. And I had a rough time with that. They were both my heroes. My mom's dad especially was the man who I tried to emulate growing up. He was a combat veteran from World War II, and just a genuinely good man. Had up close to literally a million volunteer hours with the VA, and worked at the Savannah River site that we talked about, where he put the nuclear fissionable material in the tips of the bombs back in the day. We didn't know what he did for years. He said he canned tomatoes. So, but this all leading up, he was a good old country boy from Blairsville, Georgia. Caught a German 88 round in Cologne and couldn't farm anymore, and was lucky enough to get a job with the government in Aiken at the Savannah River site. So when he passed away, he always carried chapstick and a pocket knife. And when we buried him, I knew they weren't going to do that. So I had my pocket knife that I carried that I was going to give him. When I got dressed, I had the pocket knife in my pocket, and get ready to walk out the door to go to the funeral home. I put my hand in my pocket, couldn't find it. It fell out of the pocket. I was freaking out a little bit. My dad's like, "Okay, I'll give you another knife." So put the knife in, put the chapstick in, say my goodbyes. Never had, I don't know if you've heard this or not before. I never thought I'd be able to do it, but when he passed away, we buried him back in the mountains where he came from, and myself and two of my cousins actually buried him. They dug the grave with a backhoe, and then after it was over with, we buried him.
Oh, I love
Best closure I've had. So fast forward to my next grandfather's funeral. Same deal. He carried a cigarette lighter, chapstick, and a lighter. So, okay, I'm going to get together. And I put the suit on that I had on. I had a lighter and had some chapstick, and I was going to get another. My dad collects knives, and I had a knife that I was going to give him, but I put my suit on, and I'd had it dry cleaned. It had been hanging up, driven down. As I put my suit on to walk, I'm at my dad's house, to walk into the living room, I put my hand in my pocket, and the knife that I was going to give my first grandfather was there.
Wow. Oh, man.
So, needless to say, my second grandfather got that one.
Yeah.
I had goosebumps stand up on my arms. I have goosebumps standing up on my arms talking about that right now. I get a little emotional about that, but I don't know what that meant, but it meant something.
How does a pocket knife make it through dry cleaning? You know what I'm saying?
That's the thing. It doesn't. It does not. If it does, it comes to you in a little envelope that's stapled on the coat hanger.
Mm-hmm.
Not in the pocket where it was.
Holy smokes! That's crazy.
I could, to this day. It would be one thing if I hadn't freaked out and searched everywhere looking for that knife when I couldn't find it the first time. And I had people helping me look for it because it was a big deal. It's still a big deal. And so, I insisted that we find it. We couldn't find it in 6 months later. It's back in the pocket where it was.
Oh, man. Yeah, that right there will raise the hair on your arms right there.
Hey, I gotta
I'll give you a little pause.
Yes.
Gotta admit that sure beats getting a lead pipe upside the head.
Oh, of course.
I'll take that any day of the week. It was a much better feeling. It was a much better feeling that goes without saying.
Holy smokes.
We moved on after that. And so along those lines, a couple of years later, this is something I'll tell you a little funny before we get into the meat of this stuff. So my sister does makeup, and my grandmother passed away. And when I was 35, I had all of my grandparents, and when I was 40, I had one. My dad's mom passed away, and she wanted my sister to do her makeup for her. She insisted his sister did makeup. I went, okay. So fortunately, I went to high school with the guy that owns the local funeral home. So they let us in to go do her makeup. And she's upstairs. That's an old Victorian house in Augusta with no air conditioning. And take us up to the top floor. And he goes, well, she's right in here. And we open up the door. And she's lying there, and the damn sheet's moving. My sister and I grab one another and realize that there's a window unit behind her.
Yeah.
That would have had me freaking out for sure.
Well, after we picked up our jaws and laughed at one another, the mortician came in, and my sister gave him a makeup lesson on my grandmother, and then we plucked her eyebrows. That sticks out in my mind as much as anything else, is that sheet moving, walking in the door. Oh my God, she's alive.
Yeah. Oh man, yes, that would probably about make it soil your drawers right there. After we got finished with that Charmin moment, we still laugh about it to this day. That definitely that brought us closer together than just about anything. My sister and I have been through a lot together.
Oh yeah.
Putting makeup on our deceased grandmother is definitely at the top of the list. She's gonna have a heart attack if she finds out I told this story.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
So, all right, grew up in Augusta and grew up hunting and fishing. My dad's hobbies or my jobs a lot of the time. And I grew up in the woods. And this is moving into how I had, like I said, swamp apes, whatever you want to call them. I don't know. I don't know what they are, but I know one thing, they scare the hell out of me. And so I guess around the time that I was having all the activity going on in the house that we were living in, we were hunting up north of Augusta on Clarksville Lake, which is a big impoundment. It's called Lake Stromthurman now. It's a Corps Engineers property. But I never saw any deer when I was hunting. My dad would shoot deer. His buddies would shoot deer. I'll never forget one morning, it was freezing outside. I mean, it must have been 15, 20 degrees at the high of the day. And in Georgia, that's cold. And I've heard of pareidolia quite a bit, sitting in a tree stand. And probably about 75 yards out front to the left of me, I'm sitting in this like 2 or 3 year old pine trees. There's cedars, there's oak trees. It's Piedmont woods. At first I thought it was a deer, but there was a tree right out in front of me to the left, and it looked like it was a deer or something sticking its head around. Well, then I put my rifle up with the scope to see what it was. Well, it wasn't a deer. I really don't know what it was, but it scared me enough that I took a shot at it. And I to this day, it terrifies me. And it was black and hairy. Like I said, I was 10 or 11, and as I said before, I mean, you just put that in the back of your mind. I thought I was imagining things. And my dad comes and, what'd you shoot? It's like, well, I missed. You don't miss. Like, I did this time. Put it back down.
Did you miss on? You think you missed on purpose, or you?
Honestly, I don't. I mean, I don't want to. I'm a pretty good shot. I always have been. I'm still embarrassed for taking a shot at something I didn't know what it was. To be honest with you, that was the quickest way to get in trouble, is to fool around in the woods like that. And I probably did miss on purpose, or I was so scared that I was shaking so bad that I missed.
Well,
yeah.
So it's like so where you're at then? Did you guys because I mean, you're talking 10 or 11. So this is back in the 70s, back when we.
Yeah, this is 77, 78.
So you're probably not like thinking there's a Bigfoot, right? I mean, that's not even
not at all. The only thing but at that time, the only thing I knew about Bigfoot besides the Patterson Gimlin film was the $6 Million Man.
Yes.
And I was scared to death. I was scared to death of Andre, or Andre the Giant that was dressed up as Bigfoot.
Yeah, it was Andre the Giant. Yep.
God, dude.
He was one of them. I think there's two guys that played, but he was one of them. So what? I mean, how far away do you think you were from that?
Probably about 75 yards. I was shooting a 30-30, so it was less than 100 yards. That was, we had lanes cut out that, I'd established because my dad was, by this time I'd been in the woods 7 or 8 years, but still, he was, half a mile away from me, if not more than that. And he would drop me off. I'd, walk through the woods in the dark by himself, in the stand. But, I'm sitting there with a 30-30 and a knife. Who am I worried about?
Right.
Yeah, at that point. Yeah, I'm the baddest man in the woods. So, and I don't, it was just after I said I missed, it was just kind of like it was dropped. And I do remember the old man always giving me a hard time for getting out of the stand early after that. I don't want to be in the woods in the dark. So this, coming along, and the thing is, I never saw any deer. I never saw deer, never saw raccoons, never saw beavers. Yeah, you hear all this stuff in the woods, and after listening to this now, that I was saying earlier, all this information that's out there, and all of these recordings and these experiences, it's like I was hearing stuff all around me that I don't know what it was. That I was thinking were big, birds and dogs and people that weren't. So.
And what's funny is, and I was actually talking to Jason about this a little bit earlier, is from being on vacation, I hadn't listened to the last couple episodes of Sasquatch Chronicles, and I know we have a lot of fans on from that listen to us, that listen to them, and I just got the episode of the hunter in Mississippi, who,
oh my God, the Mike Woolley.
No. This was just this was like 2 weeks ago. The last episode.
Yeah.
Like where the guy
talking about the power lines, which kind of hit a.
Yeah.
And I know exactly what he's talking about.
Yeah. And he said he'd been out in the woods all that time and he had always heard tree knocks and he just thought it was guys putting up deer stands, and he'd hear the noise and he thought it was a coyote and he thought it was something else. Until he saw
bobcat,
that
fox,
until he saw the creature, like from 30, saw it from however far, but it came up to within 30 yards of it, and so that I had to turn that one off. I can definitely imagine that being out there in the woods, that's the last thing you want to hear is somebody describing something that you've also heard and that you've just kind of dismissed as something else. So
out of sight, out of mind. Yeah.
I can't believe as a 10, 11-year-old kid, you see that, not know, and know that it's not a deer, but not sure what it is. I can't believe you are going back out in the woods, to be honest. But
well, I didn't have much choice.
Okay.
Didn't have much choice. Like I said, his hobbies were my jobs. And I did get out of high school quite a bit during the hunting season to clean deer. This is the more important job. It's a more important job, son. Yes, sir. It's like, I'll write you a note. Don't worry about it. Okay, Pop. So move forward. And
70s were much
absolutely. This is 70s and 80s were definitely much. I drove a Chevrolet Custom 100 stick shift pickup truck that had been a column shift 3-speed that got converted into a floor shift 3-speed, and you had to hunt for a second and to get and jig it around. And the reason I'm telling you this is my outdoors vehicle as well as what I worked in. So moving on, I've grown up a little bit now, and I hunt with my buddies, and everybody always gives me a hard, even in high school, like, why don't you want to get up early in the morning and go with us? Why don't you, why are you always out of the stand? I'm like, I'm just, I don't want to do that. I'll meet y'all there. I'll go fishing. We'll do all that, but I'm not getting in the stand in the dark, and I'm not coming out in the dark unless there are 3 people with me. So, this is probably 90, 88. 90. I was 21, 22, somewhere around in there. And good fortune of having a couple of buddies who had quite a bit of land south of Augusta in Burke County. And my friend whose land this was, it was a King's Grant from King George III. And it was a substantial piece of land that had been in their family since the 1700s. So it had been a farm, and there'd been some shacks built on there, but there's a water drainage going to Briar Creek, which runs in the Savannah River. There was a dairy farm across the road where I told you that a guy that I made acquaintances with has had some things happen to him. So there was what happens when cows die on a farm, take them out in the big hole, push them in there, and then when it gets filled up, bury it. Mm-hmm. So there's a ready-made food store. So you think about it, there's just a buffet around for this thing. And so one afternoon, it was in October, which in Georgia it was warm. It was probably in the 80s. And I had talked to the guy, my buddy, and he's like, go on down and I'll meet you down there. He said, I know you'd like to get in the stand early if you're going to go. And we'd been hunting in this swamp. And to get to it, I get there, and it's about 2:30, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I get there, and I park my truck, Count Truculus, what we call it, because you could park anywhere with that thing and go anywhere. Parked the truck.
Count Truculus.
Count Truculus had a piece of lead flashing beat into the hole in the floor where it was a 72 Sierra Custom, and it didn't have heat or air conditioning.
That'd be a sweet matchbox for Count Truculus.
Count Truculus with rust spots and pipe racks and side bends. So it was a fantastic truck to take hunting because you could sit on the power line in the bed and look down. So I parked Count Truculus in the normal spot, and I'm walking down the power line to get to the swamp where we had the stand built. And as I'm walking, I'm walking to the right-hand side, and it runs, I'm guessing, north to south. And I'm walking south, and to the right of me, I notice there's just a little bit off of the power line, which is cut in this knee-high grass and saplings, and it's still pretty wide open. You can shoot 300-400 yards on these things. I had a 270 with me. I see, as I'm walking down, I've probably been walking 10 minutes, and I find it looked off to the side. It looks like a perfect blind, like a sticks pushed up together like an ambush point right next to a tree. There was a tree where you could prop on, and I'm like, well, hell, I'm going to try this out. This looks fantastic. So I sit down on the ground, which I don't ever do. I completely deviated from the norm here. Normally, I don't come down there at that time of day. I don't sit on the ground. I had on a head mask that looked like leaves blowing all over it, and not taking my clothes out of a garbage bag that I kept pine needles in. I was trying to shoot a big deer, at least going through the motions of it. So I sit down, and it's really quiet. And I'm looking around. I'm like, this is great. This is a great place. And I guess I'd been there 45 minutes to an hour. And behind me comes, you guys have heard Ron Moorhead's Sierra sounds.
Yes.
That. Only like it was playing out of giant speakers right behind me.
Oh, my goodness.
I passed out. I pissed my pants, and I passed out cold. And I woke up 30, 45 minutes later. I had no idea what happened. I don't know how I got back to the truck. I've never been that scared in my entire life. I didn't see anything. Thank God I didn't see anything.
Wow.
I can show you fingernail prints in the rifle where I gripped it so hard. I got goosebumps. You guys want to take a breath?
Unbelievable. That's great. I mean, at the time, I know it was probably scary as I don't know what, but man, that's a heck of an encounter.
Man, you peed your pants. That's great. That's
absolutely. Absolutely. And then had to make up a story about why I peed my pants because nobody believed me.
Now, do you think that you got drugged back to your truck or
I didn't.
What?
I don't think I got drugged back. I don't think I got drugged back because there were, I wasn't disheveled or anything. I seriously think that it was either the fight or flight and me locking up and just passing out, or I think maybe that I got popped with infrasound.
Oh, boy. I'm just jumping to a conclusion. So obviously,
I was in the wrong spot.
Well, yeah, it sounds like he came out to go hunting itself
and found some jackass sitting in his stand. Yeah,
yeah.
This punk was supposed to be down in the swamp. He's not even supposed to be here, and he's in my spot. Like I said, I did everything. I broke every pattern that we had been hunting for the past couple of years doing, mixing it up. So
now I got a question. When you heard that samurai chatter, which is they commonly refer to that as, did you feel like the sound waves? Because people say that sometimes you can feel it when they're actually doing that.
Yeah, that's what I said. When it felt like it came through speakers.
Yes.
I felt it.
Oh my goodness.
And I'm just saying, if I saw something, I probably would have died of a heart attack. I mean, I don't. As people say, I wish that I could see one. You can see mine. You can see mine.
Well, obviously, he didn't think of you as a threat because he was probably just warning you. And then when you passed out, he was, he's probably like, all right, I'm gonna leave.
My job is done here.
Yeah,
my job is done here. But
he's like, look at like it's like I can see it in a movie. He's like, oh my god, I was just gonna tease him. And he passed out and peed his pants. What am I? Oh, I gotta get out of here.
Like, he probably think that's sort of like a possum.
Exactly. It's amazing. No scales, no teeth, no fangs, just soft and pink. But yeah, I mean, if he'd have wanted to do so, if he or it, I don't know why I'm saying he, but I'm just guessing something that kind of energy was the masculine form of it, but could have done whatever it wanted to me while I was passed out, and that's what scares me more than anything, because I don't know what the hell happened.
Yeah, he took mercy on you for sure. I mean, we know how powerful these things are.
And that's going to be a level. That's going to be a level of. I don't want to say just intelligence, but a level of understanding of that you are not. Absolutely. Like, you weren't its prey. You were more like
not at all,
like a nuisance, and like, come on, get out of here.
Absolutely. What are you doing here? What are you doing here? And I mean, that's what, and that's what gets me. And yeah, you're absolutely right. But there is a level of empathy there that you would get from something like this, which you get into. Is it an animal? Well, and aren't we all? In a certain sense of it, but there's something else there. And, that's what I spoke with you earlier about. And I've been, after this happened, I just stopped hunting. I go fishing, but now the ponds where I was fishing in, there's water. It's just a beaver tail hitting the pond. There are no beavers. What's slapping the pond while you're out there fishing? That's why I saltwater fish now. Yeah. And and I've heard stories about the swimming Bigfoot in the Puget Sound too as well.
Now
they're everywhere.
To give everybody a sense of how big was this property? Like,
all right, so this property is a couple of 1,000 acres.
Okay. So
it's a big chunk.
Yeah, so Jason, like to put that in perspective, I think a country square mile is about 640 acres. Okay.
Right.
Yeah. So it's about 4 or 5 miles. Yeah, it's about 4 or 5 miles.
So that is a huge swath of land that is just privately owned with ponds and
creeks and bottoms, and there are old shacks in there that belong to sharecroppers and the like that they lease the land out to hunt with. And it's either soybeans, corn, hay, or lion fallow. There's tracts of pine trees, because the land's always working for you, and lots and lots of pine plantations, which apparently they like a good bit as well. But there's also cedar mixed in with that, and it's farming country down there, and there's fish in all the creeks, and now the coyotes are coming up and the armadillos, but back then, it was possums and squirrels and rabbits and quail galore. And it was, like I said, it was a buffet. It was it still is a smorgasbord down there.
Yeah.
And, these guys, I guess, have gotten used to us being down there for so long. But as I touched on, I'm not going to mention a friend of mine's name, but he and I connected over the internet years after this, because he was out at the military base in Augusta, which is one of the few places that got 2,000 and 3,000 yard firing ranges. And they were having some competitions, and everybody got locked up in a stockade at night. And this is literally 10 miles from where I am, if not less than that, where I had my experience. And after a day's competition, they lock everybody up so they don't go out and run the course the next day. Gets a call from the MPs asking if they had anybody out in a ghillie suit. And he said, no, all my guys are here. He goes, well, we just had somebody walk out of the swamp across the road in a ghillie suit.
Wow.
Right. And that's another thing you hear, is that these creatures are all over on the military bases, especially down south and out in California, because those are huge swaths of land too that normally don't have a bunch of people running around in the woods, other than for some exercise
on the perimeters.
Yeah.
And so then he also had another experience a mile from where mine was, where he got bluff charged. And he said, I don't know what it was. It sounded like a 2,000-pound bull coming at me. And at that point, he didn't have one. But after that happened to him, he bought himself a 4570 that he goes hunting with, regardless of what else he's shooting. Mm-hmm. He carries a 4570 with him now.
Did he see the thing bluffed? I mean,
he said something charged, and he's still he has now come to grips with it, but he's like, I don't want to say what I think it is, but what else is going to do that down there? I'm like, well, all the petting zoos have been closed, and the wild animals escaped years ago, so what else is going to do that in East Georgia?
That's right.
So your buddy that owns the land out there.
Yeah.
How long was it before you told him what happened to you?
No, it was probably about 5 or 6 years before I told him. He laughed at me. Well, he doesn't want to believe it. He doesn't want to believe it, but I mean, would you if you would? It's like, dude, what am I making it up for?
I know. That's the whole point is what do you, hey, guess what? I urinated all over myself because
you remember that. You remember that because they still give me a hard time about it.
I'm surprised that he hasn't been out on his land enough where he hasn't had some type of encounter as well.
Well, I kind of, as with him as well as with my dad, I think there's more that does happen to them than they're willing to let on.
Yeah, probably so.
My dad was before we started hunting deer, we're big rabbit hunters, and we had like 42 rabbit dogs at one time. We lived. This is before we moved closer into the city. We lived out in the country, but hell, we had the dogs in the city too. We had 40, 45 beagles, and we would go out in the swamps down right around where we were further south, and we started losing dogs. And I kept saying, "Oh, they're just running deer." And you may have 40, 45 of them, but they're your pets as well as your hunting dogs. Mm-hmm. And we got out of the rabbit hunting because we couldn't stand to lose the dogs anymore. And I'm like, you can understand one or two, but when it was in the course of going out and hunting 4 weekends in a row and you lose 3 dogs. Like, what the hell's going on?
Well, beagles might take off chasing after something, but they're going to come back.
Absolutely. Well, and where we hunted, they all had collars on. They all had name tags on. It's not like if we lose them, we would leave. We would go back and look for them. And, like I said, they're your dogs. They're your responsibility. You just don't, if you lose a dog, you just don't leave. You stay till dark and come back the next day. And we would find them occasionally, but then we just stopped finding them. And it was at that point when, like, we're just going to hunt deer. We can't beat them. We're going to join them. And that was what the narrative was. Is the dogs are running deer. There's not enough rabbits anymore. The dogs are just running deer. So, you explain that away. I mean, it's like me having something look around the corner of the tree at me when I'm 9. After a while, I was like, I've just imagined that. And I put all that down and away for years. And I mean, it was just in the past 5 or 6 that all this stuff's come back with the advent of all the podcasts. And I'm a big Sasquatch Chronicles fan. I like Shannon LeGros. I've told her my story. She's the only other person that I really told this to. And there's something out there. I mean, it's like, it's as arrogant to think that they're not aliens, that there's not intelligent life elsewhere. There's something else here. And what it is, my theory is it's hypernatural. It's not supernatural. Mm-hmm. It maybe evolved along the same chain that we did and had different abilities that we do. Maybe it vibrates a little different. Maybe it's on another frequency. Maybe it's had enough time to learn how to do it, but the vanishing and the footprints disappearing and stuff like that, I can't explain that. But, portals, I'm not going to say no.
Yeah, you just touched upon some theories that I've been entertaining myself as well, with the portals and also the disappearing behind the trees. I mean, when they're literally hiding behind a tree, where you've seen their body mass is much larger than the width of that tree. And then all of a sudden,
agreed,
they're gone. I mean, there's something to
not
it.
A sound.
Yeah.
There's something else out there that we can't explain but it's not for lack of trying.
Right.
And there, like I said, there's some kind of empathy there, and by what happened to me, it makes me look at it a little different, but it still scared the hell out of me. I'm still scared the hell out of the woods.
I think it just validates the fact that there is an intelligence behind these creatures. As big and powerful as they are, and even though they're living out in what we consider the wilderness, I think they're equipped for that. That is their territory. That doesn't mean they're dumb animals.
No. They might look at us and think we're dumb animals for the way we live.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely. Well, what do we know about their culture, the way they build, their cultural language, their artifacts? And we're looking for human sign. We're not looking for Sasquatch sign or, another life form sign of communication with these stickless and TPs and rock stacks and knocks and
the X trees where they make the X's.
Yeah.
Everything. It's just
the big asterisks. Yeah.
Yes.
It's insane.
Mm-hmm.
It is.
Now I'm curious, Happy, what you mentioned the dairy farmer across the road.
Yes. Yeah.
Did he say anything other than, he throws a cow a dead cow in the pit?
Well, that's where my buddy had his bluff charge. Was at that dairy farm. That's what I was saying, small world, and a mile away, that dairy farm over there with the giant with the giant burial pit is where he had his bluff charge experience.
Have they told you any others? Have they said any other stories of anything that's going on over there?
Well, once again, dogs disappearing, calves, missing the occasional calf, but there are no bears. The biggest thing you can get around there is an alligator. And we're far enough north.
Alligator's not chasing. Yeah, alligator's not chasing a dog across the.
They get down in the swamps. They get down in the swamps. That's that's what you think about. So it's tight-lipped. I mean, I hear about it all the time, and there's people worried about what you think about them, especially down around there. Your reputation is and your word are gold, and people aren't going to say anything because they don't want to be thought of as crazy. They want he's just a crackpot or hell he's lying. I mean, that's where that's fighting word. You call somebody a liar down here,
right?
And it like I said, I'm sure that there's a lot more that has taken place than I've known, but I've started asking questions. People get really uncomfortable really quickly.
We hear that all the time. I mean, we've talked to the one gentleman from Southern Ohio who he didn't know what to do. I think he had the recording of the Sasquatch. Lives down in
was it the
Wayne, lives down in the Wayne National Forest.
Yep.
And he said people at work, when they heard that he had an encounter, came up to him, and like 3 or 4 people had Bigfoot stories, but they didn't want anybody to know that they had them. It's like it's all hush hush. But they wanted somebody to talk to. It's like that just is.
Here I am.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, here we are too. I mean, that's why I cannot stress enough. I mean, that's why I say it's good to have a platform like this where people can come tell their story and not have to worry about the ridicule of other people, because we're all of like minds here.
Absolutely.
How else are you supposed to? I mean, I know it's a traumatic experience, and we're, and we can't help ourselves but to have fun because you made it out safe. That's the most important.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Is you survived it, and it's so hard for even you probably to this day to still wrap your mind around everything that happened.
Well, that's why I'm talking to you guys about it, and it happened, 30 years ago, guys.
Yeah, I understand.
And it's taken me 25 of those to just think about it, to actually think about it. And like I said, if I'd have seen something, I'd just dropped dead of a heart attack right there. And I've listened to the judge's story about the dog man. Holy crap!
Still affects him to this day.
Me too. I mean, that's the thing. And I mean, something like that. And the more we talk about it and normalize it is how we're going to get to some kind of explanation about it.
You are absolutely right, Happy.
And we do have to come out from the shadows and talk about this, lads.
Yes, we do. Yep.
I mean, it's just, I mean, I think about it at the weirdest times now. And sometimes I just get the heebie-jeebies when I'm out. I still like to go out in the woods. I still like to go to the mountains. I still like to go fishing. I'm definitely not by myself anymore.
Yeah.
And I don't know what good that would do anyway to 2 or 3 of us, but it's 2 or 3 more guns, but I don't even think those are going to work. And I'm not going out there looking to shoot anything anyway. I've pretty much given all that up except bird hunting because they have a fighting chance.
Right.
I wonder, I've been wondering since you told, I wonder if you did see something and you just were so traumatized that you just cannot even begin to.
I wouldn't rule it out. I would not rule it out. I mean, I guess you have to get hypnotized for something like that.
Yeah. It's like, maybe you couldn't process it at the time, and so everything just shut down. Yeah,
absolutely. And I mean, I was sore. I mean, when I say I locked up. And, you were talking about the Sasquatch Chronicles guy that you listened to in Mississippi when he said he was fight or flight and he locked up. I locked up.
Yeah.
I mean, I couldn't, and I mean, it's so bad that I was sore, but it was a primal fear. I mean, it was that reptilian core down at the bottom, that basal level of survival that kicked in. Yep. And I guess, who knows? Maybe I did see something. You're absolutely right. I haven't really thought about that, Shane, to be honest with you. It kind of.
You go to sleep tonight.
Yeah, I think I'm going to have a cocktail before I go to bed, fellas.
But seriously, I can't even imagine sitting there and hearing that sound, knowing that there's nothing out there. Like you're not in the middle of.
I was by myself.
Yeah, you're not in the middle of a reenactment of Shogun, from the.
No. Not at all. Yeah, no, not at all. And not at all. There were no exchange troops at Fort Gordon. There was none of that whatsoever. I mean, like we said, I mean, I was what I thought was the baddest man in the forest that night because I had a 270 and a buck knife on my hip.
Right.
Need be there was a pistol in the truck.
It's a comforting feeling. Yeah. And then you run into something. Yeah, you run into something like this, like one of these creatures that that you're outmatched, even with that firearm and with that hunting knife. I mean, and to not be able to tell anybody about it because in fear that that you're going to be like looked upon as if you're crazy or you're nuts. I mean, it's hard to process something like that. That's enough to change you. That's why I'm so glad that there's platforms out there like ours and like Shannon LeGros and Sasquatch Chronicles, because I think it's entertaining. And we will get to the bottom of it. The more people come out and we get this accumulation of knowledge. But the fact that how it's probably therapeutic to the people that have had encounters and have, survived it, and have a place where they can get their story out and possibly even meet up with some of the fans of these stories that have also had stories. I mean, that's comforting. Because that's something that didn't exist.
Preach the numbers for sure. Yes.
Yeah. Preach it, brother. Preach it. That's yes. Absolutely right.
Yes.
Preach it. That is, it is comforting, and that's a blow that I still haven't really recovered from. Is that feeling of security that I had with a gun?
Mm-hmm.
I don't have that anymore.
Right.
And that goes against everything that I was raised.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Same here. I mean, you didn't fear nothing out in the woods. You got your rifle with you.
Absolutely.
You got 300 Winchester mag. You got your backup 44 mag on your hip, and you got a hunting
Agreed.
knife. I mean, I'm good for the whole day or the whole weekend if necessary.
Absolutely.
To break it to you, Jason, you're not. You better put on some Depends, buddy.
Oh, I know. I mean, that's why I said this is the real deal here. Let you know just how insignificant you actually are. Right?
That's
absolutely.
And isn't it crazy that we walk around, man, thinking we're the top of the food chain and the smartest thing around, and then you hear these stories and you're like, it's funny how we get reminded every now and then of our place. We got to know our place a little bit.
The mortality and insignificance check.
Yes,
a speck of dust out there.
That's right.
You're a speck of dust out there in the grand scheme of things, and we don't know anything.
I think a lot of people want to make fun of the subject of whether you see a ghost or you see a Bigfoot or you see whatever. I think it's so hard to come to grips with that reality that there's something else that we don't entirely understand.
People will take seeing a ghost over seeing a Bigfoot, and in the grand scheme of things, and really, what's the difference?
Well, you know what the difference is? You know what the difference is? Is that if we're talking about a mammal that's out there running around that nobody knows, that's more plausible than seeing a ghost. Okay?
Absolutely.
It's more plausible that there's an unknown animal out there running around than there is that there's a ghost or we're being visited by UFOs from another solar system. Okay? And yet, you tell somebody you saw Bigfoot and they think, oh, that's the craziest thing ever. Do you believe in ghosts? Oh, absolutely. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, I was in a haunted house. I was like, well, what are you people drinking? What were you guys drinking out there? What do you mean? No, you saw Bigfoot. You had to be drinking. You smoking dope, aren't you? Well, no, we're hunting. We didn't do that. Well, I had to do something because that's just that's ridiculous. You didn't see anything like that. That was a wild hog. Oh, you saw a deer. I'm like, I've been in the woods since I was 4 years old. I know what a deer looks like. I know what a wild hog looks like. I know what a fox sounds like. I know what a bobcat sounds like.
Will you tell me what animal comes up behind you and makes that sort of noise and then leaves you? Because wouldn't a wild hog? A wild hog would bore you, would kill you, wouldn't it? I mean,
would eat you while you were alive.
Yep.
A wild hog, if he got you down, he would eat you while you were alive. A bear would, if there was a bear, there's no bears there. they're no bear. Well, actually, I take that back. They have had some come up, but that was several years later. Come up out of the swamps, but they're tiny little 200-pound black bears that don't make samurai chatter at 4:30 in the afternoon in October.
Well, I would love to talk to your dad and your buddies and just say, okay, guys, come on. Nobody knows who you are. Just tell us what you have heard, what you experienced yourself, and I'll bet you that they've experienced some stuff that they can't explain, but they just don't want to.
Oh, no doubt,
absolutely.
No doubt about it. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, I can't find that deer. I shot a deer and I couldn't find it. The blood trail was there, and I lost the blood trail and I couldn't find the deer.
Yep.
You get dogs out there, can't find the deer. Yeah, okay. Okay, they just teleported out of there.
Yeah. Well, really, and the reason I ask you about the size of that piece of property is that, and we hear this a lot, is people, I've hunted my whole life. I've never seen anything like that. Okay. And I mean, I've never said that because I don't go hunting, but I hear that all the time from people. And especially like people where we're from, Jason, rural Ohio. Okay.
Right,
and they think, oh, this is so rural. There's no pieces of property that's even remotely that big with that kind of habitat on it that people could go, not where we're from, but people only understand. Well, of course you could.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
we can get lost.
That's a huge piece of property. And that's probably a small piece of property in comparison to some patches of woods and stuff. I mean,
like I say, pull up Google Maps and Google Waynesboro, Georgia, and then just pan out and look around where that is, and it's all checkerboarded fields. I mean, there are hedgerows and there are fields and there are river bottoms and there are creeks and there are ponds and there's farms and there's farms and there's farms. That's what's down there: pine plantations and farms. And people say, I've hunted all my life, I've never seen anything. Well, I could say that for a while. Till you see something.
Yeah.
Till you see something.
Well, and that's it. And I'm right there with the fact that people that are out in the woods hunting, and those guys, like yourself, that come forward as eyewitnesses. I mean, it's not like if you put me out in the woods, I might mistake a bear for a Bigfoot. Okay, I might mistake.
Hear you.
You know what I'm saying? Because I mean, I'm not out in the woods all the time.
You've probably never seen a bear in his natural habitat either, so yeah. So you might make that assumption.
Yeah, of course. So, but to take people who are trained and have scopes and have, supreme knowledge of what's going on out there, and for them to come back and say, "Hey, look, I don't know what that was," or I saw this thing, I was scared to death. I couldn't take a shot. I mean, you're out in the woods to take a shot at something, okay?
Absolutely.
And to say something that scared you to death or frightened you, and you couldn't take a shot at it. Well, listen, if a bear was threatening you or you felt threatened by a bear, you'd probably take a shot at it.
Well, here's the thing, though. Most of the time, people, they want to say, oh, you just saw a bear or something. A bear, unless there's something wrong with him, he's not going to come at you. And if it's a female, unless there's a cub around, if it's a female, she'll die to protect that cub. But most of the time, if they see you, they would rather run away and get away from you than to attack you unless you corner them.
Absolutely. And, a lot of it has to do with the way the wind's blowing. And I think that might be one of the things that it walked up on me like it did, is because the wind was at my back.
Right.
But I didn't smell anything. And, I've been out enough that it didn't scare me in between the first one and the second one enough that I went to film on the Boy Scouts and spend a month in the Rocky Mountains. Didn't see anything out there. You know what I did see? Bears. Came into the camp and had breakfast with us.
Now, how did you know? Bears. How do you know they were bears and they weren't Bigfoot? How do you know?
Oh, because that's a good answer. That's a good question. It's all relative, right? It's all relative.
Yeah, if you sit here and tell me that you saw a bear, to me that's almost as crazy as saying you saw a Bigfoot. It's like what are the odds? And so, I mean, if you're going to tell me you saw a Bigfoot, and I can say, oh, that was a bear. Well, if you tell me that you saw a bear, oh, you just saw a Bigfoot.
It's not a Bigfoot.
Yeah, it's not.
There you go. That's the question. And it is all relative as to what did you want it to be.
Mm-hmm. Well, another thing with people, we're talking about anything. Right. They, I believe these Sasquatch and these Bigfoot. People, they don't want to believe in them, so they want to try to rationalize what they saw any way possible, just so they can wrap their mind around it. I don't think they're doing it to be malicious. I think they're just trying to come to grips with it. Yeah.
Categorizing things. It needs to label and define everything that you see. And that's something that we don't have any parameters for.
Exactly.
And so how do you categorize something without parameters?
Right.
And, it goes back to how do we know what it does? That's where the hypernatural comes in. Is, and I told you, listen to Sasquatch Chronicles. We don't have one in the garage, do we? Nobody's studied these things yet. If they do, we don't know about it. Maybe the government is. But, every time somebody comes out and talks like this, we learn something. Yeah. But every time somebody like me, now the guys in the suits are going to show up at my house.
Your story is somewhat similar to the lady who tells the story of Sasquatch Chronicles, the English lady who.
Oh yeah, that story was fantastic. I remember that episode.
That's freaky.
Who did end up
bear?
Yeah, who did end up back at her vehicle and does not remember how she got there. And that's
because it's an adrenaline dump. I'm telling you, dude. It's from what I figure, it was just. I don't know if it was a fear or a non. It was a coping mechanism that we don't know that we have until it's the fight, flight, or pass out.
Yeah.
From trauma.
It's kind of like when I'm walking through somebody's yard to deliver their mail and a snake goes, and I just jump like a crazy person. No, not.
I'm with you there. I'm more scared of snakes than anything else. I'll tell you that right now.
Am I
walk on air?
Am I failing in my comparison to the fight or flight over a gardener snake?
Not at all. That is
all I got.
Absolutely an analogy that I'm with. Well, I'm with you on that one. I hate snakes, man. I'm going to go out of my way.
So what is your plan from here then? I mean, have you gone back out to the woods? Are you, now that you're armed with a little more knowledge and understanding?
Well, I've been hunting in West Georgia and I've been hunting in South Georgia, and I've talked to my buddy, and I hadn't been out there other than to go fishing in 20 years, and I think this fall we're going to go back. I gotta, now that I do know a little more. I don't know what I'm looking for. I don't know what I'm going to find, but I am going to go back.
Well, I would encourage. Okay, so if your buddy still laughs at you and still thinks you're full of crap, you have him get a hold of me, and I'll have the judge give him a call. And if he wants to tell a sitting elected official who has a very good reputation in the community, and tell him that he's a liar and that he just imagined things, he's more than welcome.
Yeah.
But that's what it takes, I think, is people coming forward, and enough people. You can't call everybody a liar, No,
you can't.
That's right, Shane.
At a certain point,
right.
You cannot. You can't. And, a lot of me being here is I listen to the judge's story. And, I mean, hell, if that guy can come forward and say something, I can.
Yeah.
That's the hardest part.
And I've told the story the next night, we were all together because we were all in high school, and he's telling the story about, running down the road and something pacing him in the field, and he couldn't figure. And I mean, we just were just like, dude, you're whatever. It was a deer. It was, your imagination, the wind blowing and stuff. And so he never told us what it was he saw, because he's like, he knew where it was headed. We would have really gave him some crap, because that was just not something that wasn't even something that we even could have put our heads around back.
Well, I mean, who the hell's going to say I saw Anubis in a cornfield while I was out for a run? And the senior in high school or junior in high school.
Like, and the thing, you guys were just kids at the time. And we got grown adults that would do the same thing if somebody tried to share an encounter that they've had with them. See, that's why we can't get any information. And so I might have been the only guy in the group who would even know who Anubis was. Because that reference would have went over everybody's head.
Right, everybody's head, exactly.
But what is it? And the crazy thing is, though, is once that story got out, we started getting emails. Like Shannon LeGros got an email, and we got, I got a couple of people in the area who had stuff happen, had weird stuff go on at the same time in the same area. And that was a real rural spot for us. Like you shouldn't have somebody, 30 years later, you'd have thought we'd have heard about it, but it's the same thing. They didn't want to tell. What were they going to tell? I hope this becomes an episode. I got an email from a gentleman who had something crazy happen to him in a real close proximity in the 70s, about the same time you had your experience in the 70s, late 70s. And as far as
in the mid 80s.
This guy's never told his story as far as I know. And, and so how many people have not told their stories?
I think it's a lot more than what people realize. I really do.
I'm going to agree with you 100%. I think that there's so much more out there that we don't know because people are afraid to come forward and say anything about it.
Yep.
For whatever reason. But the more information we get, I just want, I don't even know what I want, but maybe some kind of clarity, some kind of answer as to what's going on, just to process it. Mm-hmm. And I want to be able to go back in the damn woods and not worry about it. That's what I want. But I don't think that'll ever happen again.
Well, you're not getting any money for coming on the podcast. You're probably not getting an endorsement deal from Pampers. Okay, so
no.
Yeah,
or
Charmin or Gain.
That's the whole thing. Is you're a grown man admitting, that I wet my pants.
I wet my pants.
What? And there's probably people from that are going to know you that listening to this and be like,
absolutely,
I can't believe he admitted. It's like there's nothing to gain from it. You're just trying to help the next guy.
And that's exactly what he's doing. Because I guarantee you we're going to have fans out here that have had experiences, and this is going to validate what they've been living with.
If anybody else has soiled their underwear, please contact me.
Yep.
Please contact.
Well, that's what this platform is for, and I'm proud to say that.
You're proud to say. You're proud to say.
Well, you see, we didn't have no places. You didn't have no place to go. Can you imagine having something that affected you and shook you to your core, and yet you can't even tell anybody about it for fear that they might rebuke you for it? That's crazy.
I'm still working it out. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And
so yes, I am proud of this platform.
As well, you guys should be. I really enjoy it, and I feel a lot better. Thanks for giving everybody a platform and a forum to come out and talk about this.
Yep.
And I'm not getting anything, but you know what I got? I feel better.
Yeah.
I feel better. It's nice just to talk to some people who will listen to what you have to say without judging.
Right.
And just listen.
Absolutely.
And the opinions and the questions you guys are throwing out are making me think. Yep. And the more we do this, like I keep saying, the more we do this, the more answers we're going to get.
Yep.
And ultimately, that's what I want.
Yep.
Is answers. And don't we all? I wish a big book would fall out of the sky.
Well, listen, I can't believe where we're on the cusp of some of the UFO stuff, and like growing up as a kid.
Not?
Well, it's probably not coming as clearly as what we would like, but
well, they're admitting that there's some technology out there that's not human, and we can't rule out aliens as the closest thing that I've ever heard to anything like that.
Right.
I know it's like reading instructions on how to put something together from IKEA. I mean, come on, just tell me. Just say, hey, look, we don't know what it is. It might be Russia, it might be China, but we don't think it is. And if it's not, well, then it has to be alien. Now whether those aliens live in the bottom of the ocean or in the next solar system, we don't know that. But
it could be us from the future.
Yeah,
who knows?
Could be.
There's, but yeah. But this slow leak, what is getting ready to break? What are they desensitizing us to right now with this slowly but surely coming out? And when the first announcements came out, it just kind of went unnoticed.
Mm-hmm.
It's just kind of a little blip. Oh yeah, they just released and said that those Navy UFO videos are for real.
Mm-hmm.
So, and how can you believe in one without believing in the other? You like we were saying, I believe in ghosts, but Bigfoot's bullshit. And you remember, UFOs, you're crazy.
Yeah, you remember during the pandemic where they said that we have craft that are not of this earth.
Yes, so, and they just kind of went under the radar. But we believe in God, don't we? I mean, we got to. I mean, it just went away. Nobody. It made the news. There was a blurb, and then it just kind of got washed away in the detritus that's out there.
You're right.
Is that going to be in the report?
You pick and you choose your news stories.
Yeah, is that going to be in the report that comes out? I mean, we're going to come out and say we don't know that it's not, but we have a vehicle, but we don't know.
We don't know if it's alien or not.
Yeah, I think that they're going to do everything possible to say that we got something, but they're not going to call it alien. They're just going to say it in a roundabout, obtuse way and say that, well, we know it's not of this earth. And then that's it. They're not going to just declare it as alien.
No. I don't think humanity
that's for that. I gotta be honest with you, I don't think humanity really cares. They do. Well, I don't. Well, we care because but as a whole, I don't think people really care. I mean, I was just
the dawn of a new religion.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there's probably already a million religions based on something like that. So.
Well, there was cults
going all the way back to the pictures on the walls. Yeah.
Yeah. You're right.
I mean,
cave paintings.
Look at the pyramids. Look at the carvings in the 16th century churches of astronauts.
Yep.
The reliefs, the cave paintings. Across the board. I mean, look at the pyramids. What the hell are those?
Right.
To put it in perspective, Cleopatra lived closer to the moon landing than she did the construction of the pyramid.
Yep.
There you go.
Just throw that out there. Just throw that out there and think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, is that the road construction?
And think about where they placed those pyramids, how they've been placed. Over ley lines.
In the ley lines.
Yes.
Yeah, over the ley lines.
Mm-hmm.
We're all on the same page on that one, my friend. Yep. We definitely are there.
Exactly.
I did.
All the road construction I just drove through, you can't tell me anybody could have built those pyramids with the way they can't handle the roads. I mean, come on.
Absolutely. I live in Atlanta, and the roads here have been under construction since I lived here.
Let's get the same contractors that built the pyramids to come finish the roads.
Are they levitating or liquefying the rock?
Yeah, I know. What exactly are they doing? Because right now, we'd have a hard time with the technology we have right now trying to reproduce, say, one of the Giza pyramid. I mean, really, we would have a hard time trying to reproduce that.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, you can go back and look at it all throughout ancient Asia Minor and Egypt and all of the stuff that was built. I don't know if you guys have ever had the good fortune to go to Turkey or not, but I went in 2013 and wow, it's just amazing the stuff that's buried, that go along with Mary's house, where she lived after Jesus was crucified, is outside of Ephesus, and one of the most austere places in the world you ever go to.
I would love to see that.
Just like everything else.
Yeah.
To put the duality of man there for you, though, you go through and it's one of the most austere places you'll ever go in your entire life, and they're Catholic pilgrims crawling on their knees to Mary's house. You go out the back and it empties into the gift shop.
Well, if that isn't a T-shirt, I crawled on my knees to Mary's house.
You drinking? You ate, drank, and saw Mary's house.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Honk like a bumper sticker. Honk if you see somebody on their knees. You know, worship.
honk if you're a pilgrim. That's goodness gracious.
Happy. I'm so glad that you came on, and this has been a great. I mean, the last 25 minutes have been just a great discussion on a bunch of subjects as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely, so thought provoking.
Yeah,
unreal.
Absolutely. Well,
I hope
fantastic.
I hope everybody that's listening takes a cue from you, and just that if you've had an experience. It doesn't matter if they can reach out to us. I'd love them to reach out to us.
It's okay to talk about it. It's okay to talk about it.
Reach out to somebody, and talk about it for sure.
There's no shortage of people that are willing to listen now. And
That's
a lot
right.
of that has to do with you guys and the guys that we talked about that are doing these podcasts across the board.
Right.
And these blogs and the like. And, the pioneers there that, where would we be without these people?
Right.
I mean, we'd all still be just grasping at straws. So I really appreciate the fact that you guys are putting this forum out there and are just so open-minded. And I mean, talking to you, it's something you're passionate about. And you guys aren't getting paid to do this. I know it.
Nope.
And it doesn't go unappreciated. I really appreciate what you guys are doing.
Jason, we're not getting paid. Wait a second.
Nope. You're not gonna make $1, but you're gonna help a lot of people out.
Crap.
Working on the endorsement deals.
Yeah. Maybe eventually you might make $1.
They could have a gift shop behind Mary's house. We could sell some T-shirts, right? I mean, come on.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Good stuff there. Good stuff there. I will keep you guys posted if and when I go back as to if and what happens, and then maybe from there you guys can come down and eat, drink, and see Bigfoot.
I would love that. Yep.
Take you into the swamps. But Shane, I'll send you a couple of pictures of where I'm talking about that, man. I'll text them to you about some of the terrain and stuff that I had, just to give you an idea of what's going on.
You share those then on social media and let everybody give a frame of reference, or not?
Whatever I send you, you're more than welcome to use however you want to.
All right, cool. And you tell your dad. Is your dad still living?
He's still living. Mean doesn't die.
I didn't know if he got another one of your pocket knives, but if he's still,
he's got a box of them.
He's gonna tell him and your buddies they got open invitations to come on the show.
I will.
And finally fess up.
I would love for you to get something out of my old man. I haven't been able to.
That would be fantastic. That would be fantastic.
Maybe we can do that. Maybe we can do that.
No sense in him. I'd be curious to see what he'd do about the haunted house. And I would ask him.
Absolutely.
Listen, when your son got hit in the head with a lead pipe and you didn't do anything.
It scared him. He's the one that chose to ignore it.
Oh, hey, listen, it was so much easier to be a dad in the 70s. I just got to say that.
Absolutely. I'd get arrested for taking my daughter to the 7-Eleven in the back of my pickup truck.
All right, Happy. Well, we'll let you get going. Thank you so much for coming on, and this is a lot of fun.
Yes,
we appreciate
thank you. We appreciate you coming on. Yeah, awesome.
It was fantastic talking to both of y'all, and I will keep you posted, and hopefully we can get Pop on there with us one day.
Yes, that's our goal right there. That would be wonderful.
Absolutely. I would love to. I'll keep you posted. But you guys have a fantastic evening and keep doing what you're doing, fellas.
Thank you. You too. Have a good evening. Yep.
Well,
cheers, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of the From the Shadows podcast. Until next time, never shy away from the darkness or what may be lurking in the shadows. We are out.